Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to speak about rapid advancements in healthcare information technology, or health IT. Health IT holds amazing potential to transform Americans' everyday lives for the better. I believe, Mr. President, that protecting this kind of exciting innovation from overregulation and excessive taxation needs to be a high priority. And that's why I'm introducing the Preventing Regulatory Overreach to Enhance Care Technology, or the PROTECT Act of 2014. Together with Senator Angus King of Maine and Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, we are putting forward this pro-jobs, risk-based framework governing health IT. But before I speak about our bill, I would first like to thank my colleague from Maine, Senator Angus King, for joining me in this effort. I'm informally telling people that our efforts might be the start of the Surf and Turf caucus here in the United States Senate, the place where Nebraska and Maine come together politically to find common ground and work to address real problems in this country. We're able to do so together because Senator King is known as an independent thinker, a problem solver who isn't afraid to work across the aisle in order to get things done. It's refreshing, and I sincerely appreciate his willingness to work with me. I also want to give special thanks to Senator Rubio for his interest in this issue as well. He is also an original co-sponsor, and he has worked with us on this important topic. So here's what we're trying to do, Mr. President. We want to clarify the Food and Drug Administration's oversight authority over health information technologies. Under current law dating back to 1976, the FDA can apply its definition of a medical device to assert broad regulatory authority over a wide array of health IT, including applications that do not pose a threat to human safety. That means low-risk health IT can be treated like traditional medical devices, subjecting job creators and innovators to these challenges that really don't make sense. So the PROTECT Act fixes this discrepancy. The PROTECT Act keeps the FDA's resources focused on products that pose the highest risk to human health. In doing so, it also gives regulatory certainty to innovators and job creators who are developing these new products that use data safely to improve health care and also to reduce its cost. Furthermore, the PROTECT Act relieves categories of low-risk clinical and health software from the 2.3% medical device tax. Most importantly, though, it protects and promotes American jobs in a key growth sector of our economy. The mobile health and mobile application market is expected to exceed $26 billion by 2017, while the U.S. mobile apps economy is responsible for nearly 500,000 new American jobs. A report from Health Data Management anticipates 23% annual growth in this sector over the next 5 years. The FDA highlights on their website that 500 million smartphone users worldwide will be using health apps by 2015. The mobile analytics platform, Localytics, which monitors more than 20,000 apps, has seen a 19% increase in new health and fitness apps in 2013 from the year prior. That's really amazing. But what's even more impressive, Mr. President, is the health IT's ability to protect people. Consider the example of a young man named Xavier Jones, whose basketball coach downloaded a $1.99 mobile application that gave him a refresher course on how to properly administer CPR. It was a skill that came in handy the very next day, when Xavier collapsed in the middle of practice. In 2012, the Departments of Defense and Veterans Affairs partnered to release a free Apple and Android app called the Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Coach. PTSD Coach has been downloaded over 100,000 times in 74 countries. It provides reliable information on PTSD and treatments on users' smartphones. Other types of health IT, such as electronic health records and low-risk clinical decision software, can also lower costs and they can improve outcomes. Some of these technologies hold the power to quickly and broadly disseminate new information about effective treatments and recent clinical trials. Patients want their doctors to have access to these cutting-edge therapies. Protecting low-risk health IT is about empowering people with access to information. We need to protect that kind of innovation because innovation is an equalizer for consumers. And these technological benefits, they don't stop at our borders. Think about this statistic. One estimate shows mobile health deployment in Africa could save as many as 1 million lives by 2017. From assisting nurses with scheduling, reminding pharmacists to refill their stock, or even tracking emerging malarial epidemics, mobile health is already transforming the landscape of the developing world in very dramatic ways. These stories only scratch the surface of where this technology is going. It's important how we treat innovation here in the United States. Other countries around the world are looking at how our government will regulate and oversee these low-risk technologies. Our bill makes it so low-risk, highly innovative clinical and health software technologies and the potential that they have to empower people are not undercut by these burdensome regulations. FDA's promise to use its enforcement discretion over low-risk health IT only serves to create confusion and uncertainty in the marketplace. Regulatory discretion, by its very nature, is something that can easily change over time, and discretion can be misused or abused. Clear rules should be set because the current FDA regulatory model for medical devices is not well suited for low-risk health information technologies. In a House Energy and Commerce Committee hearing last year, the FDA submitted a letter to the committee that said, quote, "For 2011 and 2012, the average time for FDA review of medical device submissions that were identified as containing a mobile medical app was 67 days, and the average total time from submission to FDA decision was 110 days," unquote. When regulatory days turn into months, problems are going to persist. And that's not something that we should leave to discretion. The regulatory timeline for risky devices shouldn't be the same for these low-risk software that gets released every 60 days, has major updates every month, and sees regular changes every week. Having an approval process that takes longer than the shelf life of the average device operating system, well, you know, it stifles opportunity and it stifles innovation. Innovators, regulators, and consumers need clarity and certainty into how these regulations are going to be enforced. Since mobile wellness apps and most clinical decision support technologies pose little risk to patients, they should not be subject to the same costly, painstaking processes as medical devices. The answer is the common sense, risk-based regulatory approach that the PROTECT Act provides. It protects innovation. It protects jobs here in the United States. And it protects jobs in this US-based job sector. Most importantly, it protects patient safety by giving the FDA continued authority and oversight over health IT that is risky, and by creating an appropriate regulatory framework for that which is lower risk. With the introduction of the PROTECT Act, I would also like to acknowledge the great work of Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, and others who have undertaken this in the past. These senators have helped to lay the groundwork for the development of a risk-based framework for health IT. The ideas included in the PROTECT Act would not be possible without the progress that they secured in previous Congresses and in the FDA's Safety and Innovation Act. I'm committed to working with anyone on these issues, to exchange views, to exchange ideas, so we can get the right policy balance our country needs and deserves. And again, I thank my friends Senator King from Maine and Senator Rubio from Florida for joining me in this important effort. Together, we can achieve our shared vision of protecting patient safety, protecting innovation, and protecting U.S. economic jobs growth and opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
The senator from Maine.
Before joining Senator Fischer, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that Chris Schweitzer, a military fellow in the office of Senator Pryor, be granted floor privileges for the duration of the calendar year.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Mr. President, it's a pleasure to join the General Senator from Nebraska. I love the idea of the Surf and Turf Caucus as reaching across the country to try to find common sense solutions. I often think about legislation and what we're attempting to do, and this is an attempt to codify common sense, to try to bring to the regulatory process as it deals with medical devices a little more thoughtfulness and cautiousness as it affects health information technology. The first part of the bill actually sets up a process whereby we can examine in a thoughtful kind of way some of these issues to reduce the regulatory burdens, at the same time foster innovation, and very importantly, protect patient safety. Sets up a process involving the National Institute of Standards and Technology and other parts of the administration so that the regulatory process in this area can be rationalized across agencies and better coordinated. The heart of the bill, however, as the senator just outlined, is our attempt to differentiate between medical software that has a direct impact upon patient health and software which is more peripheral and can range from the app I have on my iPhone, which is a pedometer that tells me how much I've walked each day and how much I should walk each day, or the kind of software that's being developed across the country to assist medical practices in their billing and in the operational part of the medical business. And I think one of the most important points is, as the senator pointed out, software evolves almost overnight. And if you can go through this burdensome regulatory process, whether it's 60 days, 120 days, or a year, get your software approved, and then you find there's a bug and you have to fix it, that could restart the whole regulatory process. And I think this is a bit of I think we should acknowledge that this is a bit of preemptive legislation because the FDA thus far has not intruded very deeply into this process, but we believe that this is important in order to define the areas where regulation and the protection of patient safety is important, but software that manages the billing process of a medical practice should not fall into that category and should not be subject to that level of regulation. And that's really what we're talking about here. As the senator mentioned, this law goes back to 1976. And in thinking about 1976, Jerry Ford was president, and software was a mink coat. We weren't really thinking about what we're doing today. And of course, the legislation did not anticipate the kind of intense innovation and new thinking that's going on that's able to protect people's health just by giving them information about themselves. I have no doubt that the time will come when a smartphone will be able to do blood pressure or temperature or certainly heart rate. And that's information that we should have ourselves not necessarily regulated by the federal government. So I'm delighted to join the senator from Nebraska and the senator from Florida to introduce this piece of legislation. I think it's important. I think it's part of a larger project to try to bring our federal regulatory process into the 21st century, where time is of the essence, innovation is at the speed of light, and that we can't burden our people who are doing those innovations with a lengthy and, yes, expensive process that has a tendency to discriminate against smaller entrepreneurs and business people. So I compliment the senator from Nebraska for bringing this piece of legislation forward. I'm absolutely delighted to join her in its sponsorship, and I look forward to moving it through the legislative process. There's a companion piece of legislation in the House, and I think this, as I said at the beginning, is an effort to get as close as we can to legislating common sense in this area, and I think it will make a difference for businesses, for people, for patients, and for the healthcare system in America. I thank the President.